Welcome back to another video on the channel. So we have reached the final four of the men's 2021 US Open. Novak Djokovic's bid to win the calendar Grand Slam continues. 5 down, 2 to go, or I guess you could say 26 down, 2 to go if you counter in all the matches that he's won in 2021 in the majors. A quite incredible story already. He's had a brilliant season. If you could top it off and win this US Open, then I think it'd be very difficult to argue him being the greatest of all time. So that's the semi-final. I'm going to start with Novak Djokovic against Alexander Zverev, the rematch of the Tokyo Olympic semi-finals, which obviously Zverev won from a set and a breakdown. And just talking about Alexander Zverev, I don't think he could come into this match in any better form after playing any better and having the win over Djokovic over the last 2 months. You know, he hasn't lost a match in Wimbledon. To go to Tokyo Olympics and come back from a set and a breakdown to beat Djokovic, then go on and win the gold medal, to then batter up with the performance at Cincinnati Masters where he just blew everybody away pretty much and took that title as well. And now he's pretty much cruised to the semi-final of the US Open, so you have to argue that, you know, Zverev's one of the best players in the world at the moment, certainly the most in form, and playing very, very solid and strong, consistent tennis. One question I have had with Zverev in the past is, does he have the mental capacity and stability and to win a Grand Slam? And it's always been a question of mine, a doubt. I do still think he's got mental fragility there, but I think with experience and maturity he's definitely improving on that front. You saw the Olympic gold medal final. He was very strong, as I say, he backed that up with the Cincinnati Masters wins. I think the fact he's had a win over Djokovic recently, the fact that he's won 2 big titles, he's definitely carrying that form and confidence and believes in himself now. I'm not sure whether he's believed he could beat the top players at Grand Slams in the past, but if he doesn't believe now, then will he ever? This is his moment, I think. You know, as I said, to come off the back of 2 massive wins and a win against Novak Djokovic is about as good as momentum and confidence you're ever going to have. So, you know, for Zverev, the key for him is the first serve, I feel. You know, the second serve does often bring about a number of double faults. The first serve throughout this tournament has brought him a lot of free points, but he's up against Novak Djokovic now, who is the best returner of all time. So Zverev's going to have to play, you know, a lot more tennis, and he's going to be under pressure a lot more to hold serve, as Berrettini found last night, that you can cruise through the early rounds when, you know, the lesser opponents can't return your serve, but you come up against Djokovic, who just piles the pressure on and even gets the first serves back and play 90% of the time, then it does make it incredibly difficult. But I've been impressed with Zverev's consistency. You know, his forehand, his double-handed backhand, in particular his backhand, I think could be a huge shot in this one. I didn't think Berrettini's backhand stood up to Djokovic's last night at all. Tried the backhand size, tried the double-hander, but nothing really seemed to work. And you know, it was a shot that Djokovic really dominated and targeted, and Berrettini just couldn't quite get his backhand going, whereas Zverev, it's probably his best shot, I would say. Certainly his most consistent, but Zverev's ability to go cross court or down the line does keep Djokovic guessing, and that could be a big thing in this match. As Zverev's backhand is on it, then, you know, it could be the match winning shot for him. But yeah, he came through a few sticky moments yesterday against Lloyd Harris. I don't think Zverev was his absolute best throughout the match. Did throw in a couple of poor points at the back end of the opening set, which allowed Harris a set point, in the tie break, but he couldn't quite take advantage. And from that point on, I think Zverev was very, very strong. You know, the first set was huge in that one. But as I say, Zverev comes in this match as huge form, but he's up against a different animal in Novak Djokovic, and you know, Zverev's never beaten a top 10 player at a Grand Slam, so that record doesn't stand, you know, fantastically well for him. So moving on now to Novak Djokovic, who's, as I say, his memorable run in 2021 just seems to continue. Again, went to set down last night to Matteo Berrettini and then blew him away, you know, 6-2, 6-2, 6-3, and the unforced error number for Djokovic was, I think, around 16-17 in the first set, and then 2, 3 and 5, I think, in the next 3. So, you know, Djokovic's ability over 5 sets is just quite incredible. You know, he goes a set down, but it was 7-5, and I think it was just in working out how he was going to attack the weaknesses of Berrettini. And in the second, third and fourth sets, when he started to get a read and return the Berrettini serve, he started to target the Berrettini backhand consistently, he started to be more aggressive and step inside the court, and he was brilliant at the net last night. I was very impressed with Djokovic's serving and volleying, and the way he used the forehand and backhand to move up the court and move inside the court, keep the points short. It was very, very impressive. And when Berrettini was made to play more tennis, I guess, Djokovic was returning the serve easily from second set onwards, which meant Berrettini had to play more ground strokes, and Djokovic just broke him down, took his legs and took his soul, as Adney Roddick says, and he done that again last night. And although Djokovic, he might be slightly worried about the slow start, I don't think he played a bad opening set yesterday. I thought Berrettini played very, very well. He served brilliantly in the first set. He took his break point with a fantastic passing shot, and then served out the first set. So you have to credit Berrettini for that. I don't think Djokovic done too much wrong to get broken. It was a case of Berrettini winning it and not Djokovic losing it. But even when you win the first set against Djokovic, you're still so far from winning it. And we know Djokovic manages the mind and the body so well over 5 sets. When I think he's under pressure and he's got this 21st Grand Slam title on his mind and the calendar Grand Slam, I almost just think it makes Djokovic play even better. He's a player that thrives under pressure, and he wants to become the greatest. He's chasing history, and I don't think anything is going to stop him other than himself, really. I don't think anybody left in this tournament can trouble Djokovic on the court in terms of winning. I think the first set, if anything, if Djokovic can win the first set, then good luck winning 3 out of 4 against him. But in terms of predicting a winner for this one, as I've said, I don't think Zverev could come to this match in much better form after winning an Olympic gold medal and Cincinnati. But as well as he's playing, I just can't see him winning this one. He's picked up a lot of aces and a lot of unreturned first serves, but he's not going to have that against Djokovic. And he hasn't either had an acid test yet as Zverev, whereas Djokovic will give him that acid test. We're now consistently good. Djokovic he's like a robot at times, where he just doesn't make errors. He forces you to go for everything, and he's got a huge game as Zverev, and it can unravel very, very quickly. When he's on it and he's firing, he can blow anybody off the court for a number of games. But when he unravels and the double faults start coming into play, and his forehand still under question in my opinion in the big moments, then Djokovic can take huge advantage of that. But for me, what these next gen players and everybody struggles with is, you can play very, very well. Like Zverev played very, very well yesterday against Lloyd Harris, but you've got to go another 4 or 5 steps higher than that to even stand with Djokovic for 5 sets and have a chance of winning. The level that Djokovic can get to and stay at for 3 and 4 and 5 hours is just unsurmountable, and I don't think anybody can live with Djokovic over 4 or 5 hours for best of 5. They can live with him for an hour and a half and 2 hours and beat him over 3. But to do it over 4 or 5 hours, which you're going to have to do to beat Djokovic, I don't think any of them have shown capabilities of doing that yet. So I'm going to go with Djokovic in 4 sets. Zverev might, as I say, play very well for an hour and a half, 2 hours. He might steal the opener. But when Djokovic finds his feet in the match and plays as well as he can and starts reading the Zverev serve and serving brilliantly himself, then I think he's just going to pile the pressure on and produce his best in the biggest moments of the match and win those match-defining points. Once Djokovic switches momentum of the match and grabs a hold of it and gets a break and gets a set in the board, he's a fantastic front runner. He doesn't let leads go very, very often at all. And I'm not sure as Zverev, again, he hasn't shown yet that he can win Grand Slams, whereas Djokovic has done it 20 times. So I'm going to go with the experience of Djokovic and say that he avenges his defeat to Zverev in the Olympics semi-final and gets through to the US Open final. Now moving on to Daniil Medvedev against Felix Auger-Aliassime, and for me, Medvedev being the best player in this tournament by quite a way so far, albeit he's had a very, very favourable draw due to the exits of Andrei Rublev and Stefanos Tsitsipas, but he can only play what's in front of him. I would say about Medvedev, what I've been impressed about him is that we know on a fast hard court he's an excellent counter puncher. Behind the baseline he's the best player in the world in my opinion. He's got a brick-like defence. He's very quick for a man of his size. He reads play very well. His defensive style at the backhand corner is brilliant. His consistent depth, barely makes an unforced error on forehand or backhand from behind the baseline. he can go 30-40 shot rallies and still be there hitting away, and he just breaks opponents down. He breaks the minds, and he forces you to go for big shot winners, which either brings errors or allows Medvedev to counterpunch. So he's very, very difficult to beat. I think the way to beat Medvedev is taking pace off the ball, using drop shots, using your energy, asking him to come inside the baseline where he's not at his absolute best, but something that I talked about the other day. I think he's definitely improving. I think players at the start of this year and the end of last year were really starting to work Medvedev out that you can't hit the massive ground strokes and expect to break down his defence consistently. You've got to bring his weaknesses, which is, as I say, him coming inside the court, use the top spin, bring Medvedev into the net where he's not at his absolute best, being 6'6". But over time, with maturity and consistency, and no doubt work and training and putting into practice in matches, and I do think Medvedev is certainly improving coming forward. He's struck some very nice forehand winners in this tournament from inside the baseline. His backhands down the line are improving. His net play, as I say, still don't think his best weapon and where he's at his absolute best, but it's certainly improving over time. But whether that'll be good enough to beat Zverev or Djokovic if he was to reach the final is another question. But so far you can't really fault him. There was a slight mental fragility again there in the quarter final. Looked a little bit edgy in that third set and allowed Zanchel back into it to take the third set, which is a little bit unnecessary for Medvedev. After winning the second set 6-love, he really should wrap it up in straight sets. When it got to 5-5 in the fourth set, you thought, hang on, if this goes 5, could Zanchel pull off an incredible comeback? But Medvedev zoned in for a couple of games, defended fantastically well and counterpunched brilliantly as usual to close it out in 4 sets. So he's reached the semi-final stage to the loss of just 1 set, and as I said, you can talk about that he hasn't had the hardest of draws, but he can only beat what's in front of him, and he's dispatched everyone very, very comfortably, and he'll be full of confidence for the rest of this tournament. Speaking of confidence for this tournament and flair, you've got to tip your hat to auger-aliassime, who's reached his maiden Grand Slam semi-final. It's very nice to see a young player reach a semi-final. I'm sure he'll have the backing of the crowd tomorrow night, being a Canadian and being the young underdog. So that's something different for Medvedev, to have a hostile crowd. I think it'll be in the semi-final. They'll have the full backing of Aliassime, I'd imagine. But Aliassime got a nice win. I'm sure not a win that he'd like to have got, but to just have to play an hour and a half, I think it was, against Alcaraz before he unfortunately had to retire with an adductor injury in his right thigh. But it meant that Aliassime only had to play an hour and a half. He played very well in the opening set when Alcaraz wasn't injured. Thought he served very well. I talked about the variety in his forehand could be key, and I thought it was. He upset the rhythm of Alcaraz with the top spinning forehand, forced a few errors out the young Spaniard. And I think Aliassime's advantage in this match is that he's got more variety than Medvedev. I think Aliassime has got fantastic energy, flair. He's capable of pulling off some outrageously good shots that can switch momentum and really, bring the crowd into it like his compatriot does, Leylah Fernandez. I talked about that in the other video, that I think the match can be going away from him, but it only takes one shot, one passing shot or one incredible winner from Aliassime that can really get the crowd behind them and really switch momentum and light a fire in him to reel off a number of games. And he does have an air of invincibility about him at the moment. I think Aliassime, he seems to be riding the wave of momentum. He's coping with the pressure very well, and he's got the variety, as I said, in his game, where he's got the solid backhand, but I think the forehand could be key for him in this one. He's capable of switching up the speeds, which allows him to problem solve, and if matches aren't going his way, he's got different things up his sleeve that he can try. I think the experience is obviously with Medvedev, having reached those 2 Grand Slam finals in the past. It's a very tough match to call, this one. I think Medvedev, as I said, I think he's probably played the best tennis so far in this tournament, but hasn't really had a test. If he was to get pushed to the back end of sets consistently and get pushed 4 and 5, it would be capable to see. It would be interesting to see where his mental state is and whether he does firmly believe he can go and win this tournament. The youth and exuberance and the crowd support of Aliassime could be very, very interesting as well. In terms of predicting a winner, I think the consistency in the serve of Medvedev and the defence and the counter punching, which is something that he's done so well over the past 2 or 3 years, plays high percentage shots, might just force enough errors out of auger-aliassime. And Medvedev, though, I do think he's going to have to switch it up. I do think he's going to have to step inside the baseline and come to the net and try and finish points early, because auger-aliassime's done very well in the extended volleys this tournament. I think he'd be happy to go toe to toe from the back of the court with Medvedev. I think to play Medvedev his own game is what not many people want to do, but I think auger-aliassime will back himself in that department. So I do think Medvedev's going to have to try and bring something different as well. The forehand of auger-aliassime will make this match very, very interesting. As I said, he can use the top spin and get the consistent depth and change the pace, but he can also hit a 90 plus mile an hour and fire forehands cross court or down the line. So it might be difficult for Medvedev to read early on. If auger-aliassime can get a lead in this match, then it'd be interesting to see how Medvedev copes with going behind. I would actually like to see auger-aliassime win the opening set to see what happens when Medvedev does go behind, because he hasn't faced much adversity in this tournament yet. And that could also be a good thing for Medvedev. I was saying this the other day in the video that it's all good and well having a nice draw and cruising to semi-finals, but at some point you're going to have adversity, and at some point you're going to have to play 4 or 5 hours. At some point you're going to be break points down consistently and have to fight. And if you're not battle hardened, if you haven't gone through those acid tests, you're not quite sure how your body or your mind are going to react. So I think if Medvedev did have a tough semi-final and came through it, it'd probably be the best thing that could happen to him in this tournament. But I am going to go with Medvedev to win in 4 sets. I think he's been very consistent over the past 2 or 3 years, and he's not a come forward player where things can unravel very quickly like Zverev. Zverev's a very attacking, very aggressive. It's very fine margins with Zverev where he goes for the lines consistently. If that starts to go wrong, then as I say, it can unravel and he can gift games away, put real pressure on his double faults and his second serve. But Medvedev plays very high percentage shots. He can just rally for days. He's got a brick-like defence, and he could just force the errors and force auger-aliassime to overhit at times and go for too much. So I'm going to go Medvedev in 4 sets to meet Novak Djokovic in what would be a repeat of the 2021 Australian Open final. So we do a full swing of the year and see if Djokovic can complete the calendar Grand Slam. It's been a fantastic Grand Slam so far. I hope everybody else is enjoying it as much as I am. Not great time zones for a Brit, but who cares when it's a Grand Slam semi-final? Who's bothered about getting sleep? But if you do have any thoughts of your own on the semi-finals, do leave them in the comment section below. I have also done a preview of the women's semi-finals. If you do want to check those out, they are on the channel. Please leave a like on the video and also subscribe if you do want to see my previews and predictions for the finals that are coming up. Thanks for watching again, and I will see you on the next video.